Hello and welcome to the Midlife Awakening. This is a podcast about transformation for women who are waking up to who they really are while navigating all that comes with midlife. I'm so glad that you're here. Honestly, starting this podcast feels both incredibly exciting but incredibly terrifying at the same time. But it is something that is also very necessary. So I'm so excited to be here doing the very first episode, and I thought we'd start right at the beginning and right at the heart of it all with one simple, powerful question. Why is midlife so significant? So we've all heard of the societal term, the midlife crisis. But what if this is not a crisis, where someone completely goes off the rails and seems to be having an identity crisis or an existential crisis? What if we reframe this and see this as an opportunity to awaken to who we've always been, but we've buried for so long? What if we see this as an opportunity for growth, for healing, for self-reflection, in order to redefine who we really are, what we value, and how we want the next chapter in our lives to look? It can feel messy and uncomfortable at times, but it is also a very powerful opportunity for deep transformation, where we can find joy and alignment with our true selves by the end of this. For myself, after I turned 40, I definitely started to feel something shift. And maybe it's happening for you too. Almost like what I had been suppressing for years could no longer be suppressed and was bubbling to the surface, with more questions than answers about every aspect of my life. For example, some of the questions are, am I truly happy? Is this the life that I actually want for myself? Who am I really, and am I in alignment with my true self? Do I even know who my true self is? This can be a very eye-opening experience, and honestly, it has felt like this strange in-between space, which can feel overwhelming to navigate at times, at the best of times. Not quite who I used to be, but not yet who I'm going to become. This is what has brought me here to this awakening, my awakening. And this is the reason why I've created this podcast, so that we can go on this journey together. Because that's what I think midlife really is. It's a midlife awakening, not a crisis. It's not a collapse, but a turning point. So let's get started on this journey together, shall we? Hey guys, welcome to the Midlife Awakening podcast. My name is Odelia and I'm your host. In today's conversation, we're going to be talking about why is midlife so significant? We'll be looking at what midlife is, what are some of the struggles that we can expect, some of the advantages that we can look forward to, and some tips and tricks on how to navigate this transition or this period in our lives. So I really wanted to talk about this in the first episode because I feel like this is really the heart and essence of the podcast, midlife, and how we can use this to come out on the other end a better and stronger and truer version of ourselves. So in order to do that, we need to start off and understand what it is actually, so that we know how to better leverage this time period, so that it doesn't feel like such a struggle and we know what we're heading towards at the end. So for me, this is a journey that I'm on myself, and I'll talk about this in the second episode. I don't want to do that here. So it really is this moment in our lives that we start to question our lives, basically, and how we've been living it up until this point. Are we happy with where we are? Are we feeling discontent? Are there things that we want to change? At the best of times, this is going to feel messy and it's going to feel uncomfortable. I'm not saying by any means that this is going to be an easy transition, but if we know what we want at the end of it, it's going to help us to navigate it better. So some of the changes that we can experience during this period is physical changes, emotional changes that can be extended out to changes in our family dynamics, our careers, and our financial circumstances. So for me, this season really is about peeling back the layers. It's about healing the parts of myself that I've ignored for a very, very long time, and that I know I need to change because it has been holding me back and it has not been serving me. So, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, I want a different result, so I am now working on the change. So it's also about trying new things, saying yes to myself more and leaning into my self-love. It's about letting go of the survival mode that I've developed over the years and figuring out what success really means to me without giving a shit about what anybody else thinks. This is about my journey, and this is about your journey, our each individual journeys. It's not about anybody else. And I can honestly say that the one part of midlife that I'm really enjoying is I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. Because up until this point in my life, I was the definition of a people pleaser and a validation seeker. And I can say that not giving a shit anymore has really changed my life. And I'm quite pleased with that. So this is something that we can lean into as we experience this journey. So what is midlife really? So it's a season that we go through between the ages of 38 and 60. And we can really expect some significant shifts and changes in our life during this period. Some of the smaller emotional changes that we might experience during this phase is we might start feeling an overall decline in our happiness and our overall well-being, but we can't really understand why. It's nothing that's really changed. It's just we have this feeling of not feeling fulfilled in our lives. You might feel this need to find a purpose all of a sudden has intensified. It might have always been there, but now you're feeling it and it's screaming at you that you need to find your purpose. You might feel increased levels of self-doubt. Maybe you're not someone who used to doubt yourself before, but now you are. You might feel a decline in your self-confidence. Feel like you've lost control over the direction of your life. And that's a really common one. Maybe you feel disconnected or dissatisfied with either your partnerships or your friendships or the general relationships in your life because you're looking at them from a different perspective now because our priorities are shifting. What we value is shifting. And so all of these relationships are now going to come under the microscope and we're going to start reassessing them. So that's normal to feel. It's normal to feel that way. You might also be fearing change. Like there's this misconception that I can't change things now. It's too late. I can't retrain, can't change my career. It's too late. There's not much time left. And that is a misconception. And we'll address that in another show on this podcast. You might be experiencing changes in your mood. So all of a sudden you're feeling more depressed, you're feeling more anxious, and now you have to start taking medication to help you manage your mood. This is not uncommon for midlife. And anyone who has suffered from severe anxiety and depression can tell you that that can be quite daunting. Go easy on yourself and give yourself the permission to do what you need to do to help yourself. Okay? Some of the biggest shifts that we see can be changes in your family dynamics. So it could be that you're going now from raising children to being an empty nester. So you're going to have to reassess who you are as a parent because you're not that primary caretaker anymore of these children. They're independent, they're moving out, and you now have the opportunity to refocus on yourself, and that can be quite scary. Maybe you have aging parents and they need you to start taking care of them more. And so you're starting to take on a caretaker role for them. And this shift can be quite a big one, and it can be quite stressful, both physically and emotionally. You could maybe lose a parent, which can be heartbreaking and shattering to lose that person that has been such a constant pillar in your life for so long. That safety, that person that you can always go to. Another big shift that could happen in family dynamics is divorce. So this could go either way. It could be that you've had a good marriage for many, many years, but now there's discontentment, there's unfulfillment, or maybe there's infidelity on one side or the other. And so the marriage ends and you're left feeling confused and angry and sad and lonely, and you don't understand what's happened and how you've gotten to this point. It could go in the other direction, that maybe you've been in a toxic relationship for many years and you came to that realization and you've now managed to get out of the situation and divorce the person. And on the one hand, you found the balance and harmony that you've always craved and always looked for. but it's going to come at the expense of maybe being under pressure more, being more under pressure financially because your financial circumstances have now changed. Or it could be the increased stress of still having to deal with this person because you have children. This is going to complicate your family dynamics regardless. So those are some of the things, the shifts that we can expect from a family dynamics perspective. So the next big shift that we can see is a change in career. Most people tend to retrain from the age of 39 and they change their career. And this can be because you finally realize that you're discontent or unfulfilled in your current career. So you want to make a change. For those of us that don't make the change, we can find ourselves just feeling just discontent and unfulfilled. We don't know what else we want to do. So we carry on and we have this heavy feeling every single day because we're going into this job that we don't like, in this career that we don't like, and we don't know how to change it. So it can feel quite frustrating. You might be someone who's worked really hard in your career and you're finding now starting to see the fruits of that labor because you're getting promoted and you're getting moving into more senior roles. So on the one hand, your income is increasing, but on the other hand, your stress levels are also increasing, and your flexibility is not. Your flexibility has been affected. So these can be some big shifts that we can see in our careers. So this is all a lot to contend with, as in itself, just the emotional changes. But then you add in the physical changes on top of that we go through, and this can feel like your world is falling apart, especially if it's quite negative experiences. Then we start seeing the physical changes. And the physical changes for women can be quite intense because we start going through perimenopause and menopause, and those hormonal shifts are quite intense. And some of the symptoms that you can experience are hot flashes, changes in mood, difficulty sleeping. It's no walk in the park, perimenopause and menopause. So that can be quite difficult for women to deal with. So for men, we can start to see their testosterone levels reduce from the age of 40 onwards. And this reduction in testosterone can lead to symptoms of depression, low sex drive, erectile dysfunction, and difficulty sleeping. So it's not to say that men have it easy. They also have their own challenges to deal with from a physical perspective. And in terms of both women and men, some of the things that we can see across the board for both is lower energy levels, lower stamina. Your body is just not as agile as it used to be. You become more susceptible to illnesses. I remember my mom for years and years and years and years would never get sick. Like, she literally did not get sick my entire childhood. Not once did this woman catch a cold or a flu. But the minute that she started going through midlife, towards the end of her midlife season, she started getting chest infections, and they would get quite bad. They would turn into pneumonia quite quickly. So we might start seeing this as we progress through our midlife season and through our midlife phase. You might also start developing chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. And that can be quite daunting because maybe you've maybe not lived a healthy life, but your health has never been an issue. And now all of a sudden you're taking medication that you've never had to take before. You're having to change your diet and your lifestyle. And that can be a big shift because, I mean, if you think about it, when we do a New Year's resolution and we say, oh, I'm going to lose 5 kilos or 10 pounds. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to exercise. And that lasts literally a week. But now when you're forced to do it because your life depends on it, it's a difficult shift. I mean, we struggle doing it when we don't have something threaten us. But when you've got your health that becomes a concern, it becomes even more difficult, I think. I mean, it's a good motivator, but it is still a very big and very difficult shift, especially when you've got all the emotional changes that are happening on the other side of midlife as well. But it's not all bad news. So let's start taking a look at some of the positives, because there is a quote that says, the greatest growth comes from the greatest pain. So let's lean into that. Yes, there's going to be a lot of pain through this process, but there is also going to be amazing growth. So some of the positives is you're going to finally figure out what it is that you were supposed to bring into this world. And not only are you going to figure that out, but you're actually going to start doing it. You have the wisdom, you have the confidence, you have the courage to actually start doing it. And you have that I don't give a shit attitude about what anybody else thinks. So if you've been a corporate director of audit for the last 20 years, and now you decide, I'm going to go and teach dance because that's what I love to do and that's what I feel like I'm here to bring to the world. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you do you. If that's what you figured out that you need to do, you're going to go ahead and you're going to do it. And you're going to be happier and more content for it. And you're going to be changing the lives of other people. You're going to leave things behind that no longer serve you, right? So you might not understand why these things are being pushed out of your life or why you feel the need to let them go. It's not your job to understand it. It is going to be ultimately for your betterment. So go with the flow. If it doesn't serve you, let it go. This is the time that you're going to have to let it go. Okay. You're not going to take it into the next phase of your life. And another positive that I really love, and I've already mentioned this, is I like to call this the I don't give a fuck season, right? You're not going to give a shit about what anybody else thinks. Lean into that, use that to your advantage because you're going to be making big changes and there's going to be a lot of people judging you and saying, what the hell is this person doing? Are they having a midlife crisis? Yes, I am having a midlife awakening and I don't give a fuck what you think. So go with it. Use that to your advantage. You're going to let go of people, places, and jobs, and that's okay. This is your time to be questioning all of these areas of your life. This is your permission to question the people in your lives, whether you want them there or not. This is your permission to question where you are in terms of places. Do you even like where you live? Maybe you like a lot of sun and you live in London where it rains all the time, right? This is your opportunity to let go of what doesn't work. If you're in a job that you don't love and you don't find fulfilling, and there's something else that you'd like to do. I had this very experience last year. I was working in finance for the last 20 something years as a financial manager. And I absolutely hated it. Didn't enjoy it at all. And I did have an experience at one point in my career working with technology, IT, bringing my finance experience to that. And I really loved it. And last year I moved into a role where I could do more of that. Yes, it meant a cut in my pay. And that was okay because you know what? I've had the best 7 months of my life working in that job because it really is something that I find more fulfillment with than I ever did in any of my other financial roles. So let go of those jobs that are not fulfilling you anymore. Okay. Do what's good for you and do what your heart wants. You're going to start healing old wounds, right? This is also another one this is how I got started on this journey, is healing my old wounds. So let's heal those old wounds that have defined us for so long and they've created negative patterns. We've gotten stuck in those negative patterns. So what are we hoping to get out of this? So by the end of this, we're hoping that because you're reestablishing your identity, by the end of this, you're going to know who you are at a core level. You're going to know who your true self is, right? Because you're redefining your values, you're redefining who you are, you're figuring all of this out, as we said in the beginning, and you're going to come out of this in alignment with who you really are, and you're going to feel so content and so fulfilled just by that. You're going to start looking at your relationships, the relationships around you, and this, as I said, this is the time. And this is where you get the permission to ask those questions about these relationships. Are they fulfilling me on a deeper level? And the key here is going to be quality over quantity, right? You want quality, meaningful, deep relationships and deep connections at the end through this journey, because these are the people that are going to see you through the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that these are people that you can trust at a deeper level and that you can connect with at a deeper level. So all your relationships are going to be coming under the microscope, and you want them to be more meaningful. So you're going to get rid of the superficial ones and you're going to focus in and zoom in to the meaningful ones. You're going to start giving back to the world, right? Because this is going to give you emotional fulfillment. You're going to find causes that you're passionate about And either you're going to volunteer or you're going to mentor youngsters, whatever you find fulfillment in, you're going to feel this need to give back to the world. And the last advantage that we're going to see with this phase in our life is you're going to start living a healthier lifestyle. So if you've been diagnosed with a chronic condition, you're going to be forced to live a healthier lifestyle. If you haven't, this is a great time, because we're going through all these shifts, through these emotional changes and through these physical changes. This is a really, really great time to start focusing on your self-care, nourishing your body, taking care of your body, because your body has to now go the distance to see us to the end, right? And I'm going to be honest, that's what it is. So now is the time to really focus in on living a healthier lifestyle, okay? Because you don't want those chronic conditions to get worse. You don't want to get a chronic condition as you go through the rest of your life. And I don't know about you, but I want to be as flexible and as energetic and as healthy as I can be for as long as I can be, right? And our bodies are naturally going to start slowing down and we're going to start seeing the effects of what we've done to it over the last 20 to 30 years, right? So let's focusing on living a healthy lifestyle. And that could be an advantage. Now, how can we navigate this stage of our life? So I've done a little bit of research. These are not my own tips. I mean, I'm still on this journey with you, so I don't know everything. So how do we navigate this? And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start accepting the change, because this change is inevitable. It's going to happen whether we want it to or not. It's going to happen. So we need to accept it. And how do we do that? First of all, we do that by acknowledging our feelings. This is going to be so important. Don't suppress your feelings. There's an analogy that they use in therapy where they talk about holding. If you try and hold two balloons underwater, right? Eventually they're going to pop up because they can't stay there forever. The pressure is going to build and they'll eventually pop up, right? And so the same is going to happen with your feelings. If you try and suppress those feelings, eventually they're going to bubble up to the surface and they're going to explode. So acknowledge your feelings. You can do this by going into therapy, talking to a dear friend, trusted friend. You could do this by journaling, whatever works for you, but don't suppress the feelings. You need to acknowledge them and express them. You need to find acceptance. Accept that there's some things that you cannot control. So if your partner wants a divorce, you can't control that, right? You can't force them to be with you. You have to accept what you cannot control and focus in what you can control. Focus in on yourself and what it is that you can change. Don't focus on what you can't control, because all you're going to do is you're going to drive yourself crazy, you're going to drive your loved ones crazy, and you're going to increase your stress levels, which is not what we want at this stage in our lives. If you're finding yourself in new situations because you've had a big shift happen, try and ease yourself where you can into these situations. Try and break them down into smaller, more easily manageable tasks that you can work through, as opposed to trying to take everything on at once and overwhelming yourself. And try to find a sense of purpose. This is going to be a big one. So I'm going to cover this in another show, because this is a really big topic for most midlifers, because we do find this intensified feeling of, I need to find my life purpose. So some of the things you can do is you can maybe engage in old interests that you used to have. So maybe you did something when you were younger and you really found fulfillment and joy in it, but you haven't done it for a long time because you haven't had the time. You've been raising kids, you've been working, you've been building your career, blah, blah, blah. You know the story. So see if you can re-engage in those activities, all those interests. Embrace community activities. So if there's a cause in your local community that you're quite passionate about, go and join the cause, volunteer your time, become a part of become a contributing member of the community. Maybe you want to try something new. That could be another thing that you could do. So try something new. Maybe there was something you've always wanted to try and you've never had the courage to, or you've never had the time to. This could be a great opportunity to actually go for it and to give it a try. Lastly, we're going to focus in on our self-care because, as I said, with a healthier lifestyle, this is going to be really, really important for, our longevity at this point. You need to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, right? Because as we're starting to go on this journey and we're starting to get older, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like my resilience is not what it used to be when I was younger. I can't handle the stress that I used to be able to handle when I was younger. So self-care is going to be vital. So these are some of the ways that we can try and navigate this season of our life. And if you are in the middle of this season and you've found some tools to help you navigate, please pop them in the comments. I'd love to hear about them and we can talk about them on the show. Let's reframe this midlife crisis and not call it a crisis, but an awakening. One important thing that you may experience on this journey is that all of a sudden life is throwing you these bursts of synchronicities. And these synchronicities are going to point you in the direction of new revelations or new ways of finding meaning in your lives and the world around you. And they might actually lead you to what your purpose is. So it's these synchronicities that can transform your life. They may put you on a new path, a path that you were meant to be on all along. And if you resist, you're just going to prolong your agony, to be honest, So do follow those synchronicities. So in closing, I just want to say the deepest and most authentic parts of you are now crying out for attention because you've neglected them for so long. The key is to recognize the process, keep the faith, because things will start to shift and the space will open up for your rebirth. So if you're listening and you've been feeling that nudge, the quiet voice saying something needs to shift, I just want you to know you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're just waking up and you're not alone. Thank you for being here for the very first episode. I'm so glad that you were here. If it has resonated with you, please hit the follow button so that you can be notified when the next episode hits. And you can also share this with someone who may need it and it may resonate with. I also have a Facebook group called the Awakened Community. And this is going to be a place for us to share our stories, our frustrations, and our wins. The link is in the show notes if you'd like to join. I would love to hear from you, so please don't forget to rate the show and pop something in the comments about where you are in your journey. And also, I'd love to know that I'm not alone on this journey and that there are people out there that are experiencing the same thing. Maybe take a few minutes today after you finish listening and ask yourself the question, what is midlife awakening in me? I can't wait to keep exploring this topic with you. And hopefully you will join me on episode 2, where I'll introduce myself and talk a little bit about my own journey. So bye for now.